but let's go against the grain and talk about a different company altogether. So, um, you can yeah. So, the vast majority of my collection is Nike, but, and I don't consider sneakers as investments. Some people will consider them as with me, it's a hobby. It's near and dear. I buy to hold and cherish. The point is this, I love tennis. Tennis was my first sport. So, tennis, very obscure sport. In Europe, they they love tennis in Europe, and in the US too, for sure. Um, but it's kinda hit and miss. It's a subculture to tennis. Um, in the '90s, it was Nike basketball, and then in terms of, profitability, in terms of the gross sales, it was tennis. And so you had 1 and then you had 2. But to Nike was always the gold standard, giant, Goliath. But then there was Reebok, and people may forget, and in the '80s, Reebok was arguably, especially in the aerobic space, better than Nike, and that's why Nike had to pivot and developed the cross trainer lines and so on and so forth. So the point is, I wanted to bring a very rare, obscure pair that's a Reebok model. This is a Reebok tennis model that was made in Malavi, Washington. Mal is a former world number 10 ranked tennis player. He never won a major Grand Slam title, although he was a finalist at Wimbledon in '96. In fact, as a historical aside, Mal is, to my knowledge, the last African American gentleman to be a finalist at Wimbledon. So he was laced with Reebok in the early to mid '90s. He was one of their faces, along with Patrick Rofter, Michael Chang as well. They had a very good tennis repertoire of athletes. Reebok did. Um, this was a gift from a good friend of mine, Austin. Austin found this pair on eBay, I think, for $15, maybe 20 years ago. Uh, Held them, in his collection for years. And for my birthday a few years ago, he's like, you know what, Seth? The boss, the wife, making me clean out the closet like Eminem, cleaning out the closet. He's like, you want them? And I'm like, "Are you kidding?" So this is one of the only Reeboks in my collection. This is not just any Reebok. It was signed by Mal. It has custom PE embroidery on the tongue, made for Mal. Uh, the dogma of Reebok in the '90s was the hexalite, and this is the real thick hexalite, not these, stickers that they put on today. This was the actual tech, nice nylon mid. um, Great, quality construction, of course, the leather, toe box here. But what really sets this pair out, is the dual lacing system for absolute amazing, incredible lockdown. So you have 2 different lacing systems here with 2 different kinds of laces. Very cool. You have, the regular thin, kind of flat lacing laces that go along the towards the medial, midline of the shoe, and then you have the Air Jordan 11 like rope laces, and that is for the lateral eyelets that will give you additional lockdown because tennis is a lateral sport. You're constantly stopping, pivoting, cutting, moving laterally. This is on serve and volley tennis, which in my opinion is the greatest form of tennis, serve and volley. But I digress. So this model was not made for the public. It's kind of like a hybrid. I've spoken to a handful of people, including Mr. E. Scott Morris and John Morris, no relation, but they both worked for Reebok in the '90s. They designed many different Reebok models, and yeah, I can't find any information. So that's the beauty of the internet, and it's part of the hunt is the search for additional information. But this, I would argue, is probably the most obscure model in my collection, and I had to bring it today. So if you don't know Malachi Washington, he's a philanthropist. He has his own kind of nonprofit today. He still enjoys playing tennis. I think he's like in North Florida, Jacksonville Beach, or something like that. Would love to meet him one day. This is for Mal, and wanted to bring it today for a quick show and tell.
And it's so obscure. We don't even know what the name of the shoe is, and you can't figure it out. Like he's
Yep.
been looking for.
I don't even know what year. I'm thinking 90, 94.
Yeah, it looks 92, 90.
You could feel it, you could look at it. There were Reebok models that have similar midsole and outsole tooling, but the upper is completely different, man. I mean,
And it's awesome too.
yeah.
This is awesome. Like I would wear these right now if I could. So purple automatically gets my favorite color for shoes and for everything. So yeah, this is an amazing looking shoe. And you talked to Mal about the shoe.
Yep. Yeah, I did. I DM'd him a few years ago, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my signature." He's like, "But I don't even remember signing it." He actually the man that it was made for could not provide any, like, real no photos. I can't find any photos, but he's like, "Yeah, that's my signature." And, yeah, but that's the beautiful thing. I'm still trying to find more information about this. It is, a puzzling, piece to the pie, so to speak, but it's arguably the biggest, most obscure model in my collection today.
And when I look at it, sort of the thing I see is the Department of Redundancy department. So
Nice. I would
there's
not be
multiple logos for in the same kind of areas, and then both have like two sets of laces. It's like everything's got double. So yeah, this is a really cool piece of history that you're probably the only guy that has, to be
Mhm.
honest. Right? There's
I haven't seen another pair. And something as an aside, Bijan and I were talking earlier about worth, cost versus worth, open market, whatnot. Mayer once said a very famous quote on one of his episodes or whatever it was. He's like, I will not, he once said something like, I will not sell a gift. A gift stays with me. Like that's staying with me. It's kind of ugly, but it's also beautiful, and it crosses all the check box. It's historic. It's very rare, but more so obscure, I think.
to me, I don't think it's ugly. I think it's a good design. I actually like it. I like the little jagged edge sort of uh,
Mhm.
on the eyelid or
Yeah,
on the eye stake.
yeah, absolutely. Very aggressive looking. Um, kind of minimalistic. You see a lot of white. They didn't overdo it with the purple, but the purple punch, it's a nice accent. And purple, aside from Andre, not a lot of people. I mean, Pete Sampras and Jim Courier weren't wearing purple. You know what I'm saying? So that's against the grain. It adds a little bit of character at that time and era of tennis. So I love it. It's probably the only non-Nike that we may have here today. It's the minority of my collection. I only have a handful of Reeboks, but do not sleep on 90s Reebok basketball or tennis, especially.
I would say the quality too is funny because I've been seeing a lot more Reebok vintage stuff, and like they all look better quality wise. Uh, Fighting time, they've fought time better than Nike stuff.
Mm.
The vintage Reebok, the glue is holding on,
Mhm.
less cracking. It was they were just made a little better. Honestly, I think as much as I wouldn't like to admit that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna stay in tennis.
Yeah, okay, I'll keep going. So, I was born in South Florida, and I always like to joke that, someone who's a native Floridian is literally born with a tennis racket in their hand, and, um, this is a very emotional, uh, piece for me. I have kind of a love-hate relationship, not only with this shoe, but the man who actually wore it. So, this is the 1998 Nike Air Anticipate. This is a tennis sneaker. I actually do not know who designed it, um, but it was worn by former world number one Marcelo Rios, Rios, Marcelo Rios, Lipton, Miami final, March of 1998. It was the only time I got to see Andre play live. Um, Rios won the match, and this was the shoe, the same colorway that Rios wore when he ascended the ranked and became world number one. He was world number one March, April of 1998. He was, I think, world number one for maybe 3 weeks. Um, a very interesting aside for Marcelo Rios. Not many people may know of him. He had a very beautiful game, very powerful game. He was a petite player, very fast, very sprint. This is a very light sneaker, loaded with 4-foot zoom. But he had a very, like, brief peak, almost like a flash in the pan, so to speak. Um, I absolutely I kinda hate the player because he beat my hero, and I was there with my dad, and it's just very personal, emotional for me, but I absolutely love the shoe. Um, this model has never received a retro, and it likely never will. It is a low cut model, made with some of the best materials of the time. It's got nice quality leather upper. It's got mesh, Zoom Air embroidery on the tongue. It's loaded with 4-foot Zoom and an encapsulated heel air seal unit. So it's designed for the sprint fast tennis player. Um, and I love the color combination. It's conservative, but at the same time, it's got hints of reddish orange that, give character and flair. This is a very rare exception. Many people know that I do not buy worn or used. But I'll tell you just as an aside, it's part of the story. Rios is from Chile. I don't recall this model. I don't recall seeing it at Nike Town LA. I don't recall seeing it tennis sneaker stores when I visited my dad in Miami. I saw the Agassi models, I saw the Sampras models, but I don't recall seeing this. Correct me if I'm wrong. If someone out there recalls seeing this in the US, let me know. But one of my followers from Santiago, Chile, DM'd me a few years ago, and he's like, "Seth, I saw your Rios post because I will sometimes post a picture of me and my dad from that match, Agassi and Rios." And he's like, Seth, I have a pair. I wore them lightly back in the day. He's like, I kept them in a closet. I don't have the box, and they're a size 12 and a half. And if you look closely, you'll see a little bit of wearing around, but I made a judgment call, and there are exceptions to the rules. There are exceptions, and I made an exception to this because again, it's very personal to me. Sneakers are very personal to everyone. I feel like everyone may not be able to share the Rio story, but every model that you have and every model that people have that may watch this show, I am hoping can resonate with the fact that it is very emotional and personal, and that people can identify with something. So this is the Air Anticipate. I've spoken to Wilson Smith about it before. I don't even think it was in the catalogs, but um, I have one pair, no box. I would love to find, a complete pristine DS pair in my size, but you're looking for a needle in a haystack at this point.
The rest of these are probably Chilean landfill.
Yeah, maybe I need to go to Santiago, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But, that's, a very obscure model. You're not gonna hear about it. You're not gonna necessarily see it. As a quick aside, if I may, Johnny McEnroe wore a white and gray kinda Air Jordan 1 colorway of the Air Anticipate. He was at Wimbledon in '98, kind of, I think as just like an honored guest, and there are photos on Getty Images of Mac wearing a gray and white pair of Anticipate. But this was it doesn't have Rios's logo. There's no logo for Rios. There's no name Rios on the shoe, but it is the Air Bacon to Hardaway is the Anticipate to Marcelo Rios, former world number 1, first Chilean man to rank number 1 in the world, and again, just a very personal model for me, so wanted to discuss today.
Yeah, it's interesting. One thing I noticed is there's a Nike sign on the corner of the tongue, which is such an interesting place to put it. It's almost designed to not show, right? That part of the tongue, you wouldn't
Mm,
expect it to even show.
mhm,
So it's interesting they put the time and effort to put a Nike sign on the corner of the tongue there. So that's a cool feature. But going back, I would say shoes and music are the two things that really evoke emotion for people. I think.
mhm.
Well, shoes for me, music for most people.
Yeah, you go ahead.
But like if I see a GMP6, I like takes me back. Oh, that's what I wore when I graduated college. There's things like that. So there's always a memory attached to something. So yeah, it's a good thing you got to see that match with your dad, and that's a memory for you. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I say we stick to tennis and jump over to a similar colorway,
Sure.
but a completely different shoe. And I go back and forth with this shoe being my favorite tennis shoe of all time. It's either this or the Challenge LWP,
Okay.
but this is the Air Alarm.
Okay.
and a very special one.
Yeah, so we're going from, from a model, a very obscure model, a player that I hated, to kind of another obscure model of the player who is and to this day is like my hero. In fact, I loved Andre more than I loved Jordan. Um, I mean, in '92, because 1992 is when Agassi won Wimbledon for the first and only time, and Mike had won his title. So now you have both of these guys, different sports, different countries.
Parallel.
92 is a great year. So this is the Air Alarm. This is the 1995 Nike Air Alarm designed by Wilson Smith. But this is not just any Air Alarm. This is the retro that could have been, that should have been, but was scrapped. Um, My understanding is that only 12 pairs were made in a size 12 for Nick Kyrgios. In fact, if you look very closely inside, you'll see the Nike court logo. Both the Nike court logo and the Challenge court logo were designed by Tom Andrich, who worked for Nike for many years and had a hand in so many great pieces of graphic logo design and aesthetic. Okay. Um, so Andre wore, and this is an original colorway, the white, black, true red colorway. I own one pair of originals, but this was, and I'm not making this up. This was a Goodwill find. Sometimes gems can make their way. It's rare, but it happens. Now, to most people, they wouldn't necessarily care, but um, in tennis circles, it's almost like a feeding frenzy. Long story short, I had to have it. I'm sorry. Like, I mean, you're talking about, one of the greatest tennis players of all time. You're talking about one of the most beloved '90s tennis sneakers of all time, a model that should come back. If Frank Hooker is watching this episode, please take notes. But um, anyway, this is a sample from 2021, and the project was scrapped. There are some differences between the sample and the OG. You could see that the toe box is very, very narrow at the point. The original had a beautiful, elegant shape and slope. This is much more, I guess you should say, petite, smaller, flatter. So there are some morphological differences here. Another very small difference. Most people are not going to catch this, but the original had durable rubber compound, or DRC. DRC is a very high density rubber. You can't kill it. It was made to withstand the forces against or on a hard court, such as tennis. In the Yep. But they changed the logo, the lettering, to XDR. My understanding is extreme durable rubber, something along those lines. So they had to mix it up a little. I don't really know what the number is. Samples had numbers written on it. I'm leaving it alone. There was a bidding war for this, but you probably know the feeling. It's like, that's it. I'm not married. I don't think I ever want to have children. Like this, I need this, and I knew that it's probably never going to come out. And there's certain pairs they're not gonna come out. I was shocked to see a DS size 12, no box, and a lot of samples don't, they may or may not come with the box. I would prefer a box, but I'm sorry, I'm making a judgment call, an exception, and I'm like, I don't care that it doesn't have a box. I'm going for it. Um, Tennis circles, there's a lot of love. It can get a little, it's all love, but there can be competition. A lot of people wanted this pair, but I'm just very lucky that I was able to go all in at that time. Wilson owns a pair. Wilson has worn his pair to laser games. Incredible. He's walking around with a sample tennis pair, and most people, it's under the radar. And then my good friend Austin, who I mentioned earlier, Austin has a sample pair, size 12, and he plays tennis in his size 12 sample. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. I don't know how many more are out there or have survived or have been worn or not, but my understanding is this is one of uh, the only remaining dead stock size 12 pairs. I don't know if they'll try it again. We'll have to see what Frank comes up with the Air Challenge LWP. We're watching to see if that is, if a retro is done. Um, but I think that a lot of people love tennis. 90s tennis is on another level. And I think that if it were done right with good tech and packaging and a storyline, Wilson is the master storyteller. So why not? But then again, as someone once told me, not many people care about tennis, but I argue differently. So there you go.
So, a couple things that come to mind. First of all, the lettering, that's usually by the developer or the designer, something esoteric to them or whatever. That's the usual reason why you'll see that. But Goodwill, there's a reason why a lot of incredible pairs land in Goodwill and charity auctions, and it's because in Nike, you're not allowed to sell samples, right? That you're not allowed to make money off of the samples which were created in the process. So, a lot of employees, when they want to get rid of shoes, they go donate them. So there's people that literally just pick thrifting stores in Portland and find all these crazy gems, and some of them are my friends, and I appreciate you out there. You know who you are. So, I think the shoe was tried on because you could see the stretching. So I bet you this was tried on a little and, used for that sort of purpose. I don't know if you noticed that sort of
Mhm,
the top one doesn't have that though.
mm,
Who knows? Maybe just something there they
mhm,
pulled on it to see how it would hold up. Incredible pair. Hmm. These and the LWP Challenge are my 2 favorite tennis shoes. So I do love this shoe. I am jealous that you own this shoe, and I would like one. The other thing is this material here, the toe is very cool material, and on the original Alarm, it's also a different material than the rest of the shoe, sort of that durable toe drag, um, idea. So, yeah, I love the Alarm, love everything about it. Love the slanted elastic.
mhm.
Great shoe,
Yeah.
and I'm glad you own it.
Yeah, and one more little difference, again, the only way that I would know this or that anyone really would is if you compared it to the OG, which I have one pair of in that colorway, but the Challenge Court logo the colors, the color blocking is switched. It's flipped. So red is now, the OG would have had white. So it's a very again, we're splitting hairs, and most people won't, but it's all part of the story, and I'm glad that they kept the Challenge Court logo on there. In fact, the Air Alarm is the last this is an Agassi signature. It doesn't have Agassi's name in the name, but it's got the logo. He wore it. He was literally the only one that wore it. So, for all intents and purposes, it's Agassi signature. But people can believe what they want to believe. But nonetheless, this was the last model to have the Challenge Court logo because in '96 they switched to the A style, the A logo, also designed by Tom Andridge. So that is the historical pair. We'll have to see, how the market responds if Frank is successful, and I speak to him, and I'm rooting for him. I would love to see something with the Challenge LWP because this would be the next most logical thing. 95, 96 tennis, that is like peak. I mean, Pirate Andre, tennis ducks. I was in 8th grade at the time. I wore the Challenge LWP. This model um, uh, followed the LWP, but I feel like that was height and prime Agassi 90s tennis. So I had to bring it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
And also, you were talking about the logo, it's such a unique place to put the logo. It's such on the arch, like, it's very unique. Okay, so switch gears a little bit and switch to some basketball, mid-90s. By the way, you brought up mid-90s tennis, but honestly, mid-90s shoes across every single field,
Mm,
unintended, were incredible. Turf, football, basketball, tennis, running, like Air Max 95, all these amazing shoes. Okay, so yeah, this is the Swoops 4. Incredible shoe designed by Aaron Cooper, who did a lot of the WNBA pairs.
mm,
So this particular version of this shoe is a player exclusive made for Swoops. So the GR pair had a red swoosh and some red details. This one has silver, a little bit of aging, as you can see on the bubble. That's just Father Time being undefeated.
mm,
But the style of this shoe, it almost looks like a chainsaw, jagged, incredible pair. Definitely underrated. We don't talk about this shoe enough. We don't talk about a lot of Swoops stuff enough. Probably the best WNBA line is
mm,
Swoops,
mm,
and I have some other Swoops pairs that one day we'll bring out.
mm.
But yeah, this is a great pair. Today is actually Aaron Cooper's birthday, so shout out to Aaron Cooper. We'll see you soon. But yeah, this is a great model. Nobody talks about this, but this is just like perfect 90s
Mhm.
beautiful model.
And I love the heel logo.
Yeah, the heel logo doesn't get that much respect.
It's subtle, but it's perfect, you know? I mean, sometimes the minimalist is the way to go. Simple, simplistic, yeah, but, nice placement, beautiful logo. Interestingly, I'm noticing the heel max unit, around that time, they decreased the thickness in the millimeters. So you're still seeing the dual pressure heel, which is interesting because she was a guard, if I recall, and yet she preferred Max 2 cushioning. And Cheryl, I think she moved around early on, Swoops 1 encapsulated, and then I guess there's a progression of taste and style. But that's certainly a model that I, don't see often, if at all. Is that a GR or that's a
So this
sample?
was a GR, but the color this is a sample of a colorway that was similar that came out. So this was made for her, a PE in
Mhm,
her size. And like I said, the GR had a red Nike swoosh
mhm,
and some red details,
mhm.
whereas this one is silver. So a little bit
Nice.
different. I think the logo might be different on this one. I can't remember if the GR had the black logo
Mhm,
with that.
mhm,
But yeah, this is a really cool pair, really
mhm,
obscure. Some of the guys who really hunt the vintage stuff love these. And to be honest, the Swoops line needs a little more love than it gets
mhm,
because the Swoops line's incredible, and Aaron did most of it too,
mhm.
right? So, great
Nice.
pair.
Very nice. Mhm.
Cool. Okay, so moving on.
To cap it off, to top it off, to finish it up, and thank you for those that have stuck with it. Lot of obscure stuff in both of our collections. This pair is so obscure, it's got mold on the upper. So this is the Grandstand, but it's not just the Grandstand. This is the Grandstand LE, LE for limited edition. So back in the day, um, Nike made limited edition models. Now, all of Nike's stuff back in the day was premium quality construction, craftsmanship, materials compared to today. But to put premium on top of premium, so this is a tennis pair. There's no air. It's like a casual. It's almost like the GTS, kind of like an off court casual, to the tennis court, uh, walking off the tennis court, switching your pair, so to speak. So you have, I believe this is either nubuck or suede, and then you have beautiful uh, leather on the toe cap and the heel. Like I said, no Nike Air cushioning, very basic. You could see like foam, at the footbridge. Uh, but I picked up this pair, and like I said, you don't really see a lot of it. There's really nothing much to it. It's just monochromatic, kind of very basic in terms of color blocking. But this is, when you talk about like limited edition, the quality and and the construction and craftsmanship are on point. And for those reasons, I have to include it when you talk about obscure pairs. So this is the Grandstand LE. This is 1991. Yep. And yeah, I mean, a very obscure off-court tennis sport casual model. Mold is sold separately.
Yeah, this is absolute obscure. This is like the first thing that comes to my mind is Ace Ventura, the second one, where he's like, "Who is this ghastly man?" Like this would be hopping off the court, like you said. You slide these on. Franz is going to the
Mhm,
to the locker room to change from
mhm,
his cardigan. Like that's what I see when I see this
mhm,
shoe.
mhm.
So yeah, this is a absolute gem of obscurity.
Not gonna touch the mold. I'm gonna leave it. I don't wanna damage it further. It adds character. That pair, early '90s, and, like I said, these pairs have survived, especially the OGs. The retros are, different story. But the OGs that we have here, worn or not, and most of these have never seen a retro. Not all, some have received a retro treatment, but a lot of them have not. And, yeah, the Grandstand definitely, I mean, it's one of those that's hit and miss. I've had a few comments on the pair when I posted it, but those who know, but for the most part, that's I would think it considered an obscurity today.
Just needs a little fluconazole.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Direct application, topical. Alright.
There you go. Yeah, so this is very eclectic hodgepodge of weird stuff, but good topics, good things that came up out of it, I think.
So,
So, yeah, great episode. I think we can do obscure episodes till we die from our collection,
yeah.
basically. Okay, guys, thanks for sticking around and watching this till the end. If you did, hope you enjoyed these rare gems.